The thing about it is it really a plot twist if it's an omittance of information? Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chia, and in today's video, I'm going to be reading anticipated new releases. I did a few videos like this earlier last year, reading like pretty much the same authors. These books again came out one after the other. These are such anticipated releases because one of them is like an out-of-buy author for me, and the other two I've been waiting for the sequel for like a year now. So I'm so excited for this video, and I'm so excited to finally have these in my hands. First book I'm going to end up reading in this vlog is Rites of the Starling, which is the sequel to Shield of Sparrows that came out April last year. It came out around the same time, like beginning of April. It was a huge like buzzed about book. I picked it up and absolutely loved it. I loved the fantasy in it, and I loved the whole entire plot and the adventure in it. So I've been anticipating for the sequel to come out for a long time. Not necessarily a long time, it's been a year, but you know. But waiting a year is really long, especially if like the first book ended in such a huge cliffhanger. I did start it already. I'm about, how many pages am I in? 96 pages. Chapter 12, which is like barely scratching the surface of this book because this book is almost 600 pages. I think it's like 80 pages longer than their other book. This one is the first book right here. I love how the book is these beautiful sprayed edges. It matches the first one. Oh my gosh, look how pretty it is. And this is one of my favorite colors. It's like a bluish like purple. I love like the hardcover of this, and then also the end pages of this. I'm sure you've seen it from like other people's videos, and also if you've read it yourself. In this one also, I love how the cover matches exactly what the theme was going on in the first book. Sprayed edges that I'm gonna love to display. This book is going to be a trilogy. The naked hardcover and also the end pages is so pretty. Yeah, this is the first book I'll be reading. Since I already started it, I'll continue reading on with this. And the next book I want to pick up is, of course, The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. This is within the same trilogy, I want to say, that's interconnected standalone. She did this same thing with Part of Your World, which is one of my favorite interconnected standalone series of all time. And so she's doing the same thing with this. The first book came out was last year. It was called Say You'll Remember Me. The first book came out last year in April. I will be linking all the reading vlogs that I read the first books in if like you want to know my thoughts in the first book. Obviously I liked them enough to continue on with the series, and Abby Jimenez is one of my favorite authors of all time, so anything she writes I'm going to buy, so it doesn't even matter. This one follows one of the friends that is friends with the mailman character in the first book. This one I feel like it's a little bit messy because it's supposed to be the trope of falling in love with your best friend's girlfriend, so I want to see how messy this will be. And then the next one I don't have my hands on yet. I'm actually going to Barnes & Noble later on to pick it up. It's called The Thorn Queen by Sasha Payton Smith. That's the sequel to The Rose Barkin from last year. I loved this book so much last year. It was one of those books where like I didn't expect anything going in. I thought it was just gonna be like a fun good time. I went to it with low expectations. It's such a short book. It's YA. It's only like 300 something pages, and I think The Thorn Queen is going to be the same exact like page length. It's going to be a duology, so once I finish The Thorn Queen I'm going to be completely caught up with the series. That'll be another series marked off of my list. I am crossing my fingers that I find a 5 stars out of all these anticipated releases, but like I said, I'm gonna get started with this one because I'm already like a quarter of the way through. If you don't know what this is about, this follows a character named Odessa. She is sort of like the forgotten older child in her family. Her dad is the only one she has left. He remarried when she was younger after her mom unfortunately passed away. He started favoring her younger sister instead, and she also has a younger half-brother who's supposed to take over the throne when he gets older. Her younger sister May is set to marry one of the foreign princes of the Tyrell kingdom, but when the foreign prince comes to claim his bride, he ends up finding a way to basically get Odessa to be his bride instead of May. And so it goes on from there, where he ends up taking her over to Tyrell, crosses this whole entire ocean to get there. They go through this whole entire journey where they go through this like deep forest where there's all these dangerous monsters, and apparently these dangerous monsters are not normally like that. They're normally keep to themselves, but they've been known to become even more aggressive because they are stricken with something called Lysa. It's basically like this infection that they don't know where it originated from, and it turns their blood green, and so it makes them kind of like feral and makes them more prone to attack people even if they're not being bothered by them. And also her dad kind of tasked her to find the secret kingdom that they've been trying to infiltrate for years. And there's also this character named the Guardian that she ends up getting trained by, and they have like a very back and forth relationship. I absolutely loved and devoured the first first book. Again, it was one of those releases that I didn't know I would like. Stephanie Perry was so creative with all the creatures that she created in her story. I'll post like the Instagram post she has of all the creatures that she ended up creating in this book. I'm just hoping that we get more fleshed out, and I'm hoping she grows more as a character. Those are the two things I want to come out of the story. Obviously, I want it to be a 5 stars, but we shall see. And I can't wait to get back into the story. Hello friends, it is currently Friday, it's been a few days, and I have an update for Rites of the Starling. I have made it to 110 pages, so I'm on chapter 14. So it's taken me a little bit to get into this one. It's been a few days. I was really excited to pick it up because it was such a new release, and obviously I wanted to see the continuance of the story. And ever since like maybe as soon as I got 20 or 30 pages into it, my need to devour it actually started getting like lower. Let me start by talking to you about it. This is the second book in the, I don't think there's a series like name for it. I think it's called just Shield of Sparrows. And so this is the second book to that trilogy. I read Shield of Sparrows last year around the same time. I had the same kind of like situation with the first one. I devoured the first like 10-15% of Shield of Sparrows. Once it starts getting to the part where she kind of starts journeying into the actual different part of the country, which was like Tara, when she ends up moving, it starts slowing down. Tara is overrun with a lot of monsters. Apparently this city called Elysaria is very like secretive. No one outside of people who live in Tara are there. Everyone is sworn to sort of a blood oath so that they can't talk to anybody about this city. And so they're very secretive, and so Odessa is given like a crash course to being a spy, even though she's never like done anything like that in her life. And her dad said, "You're the only one now because he wants to marry you instead." Then we find out more about like why these monsters are infected with Lysa and what is Odessa's connection to it, and also is the prince's connection to it. And in the meantime, she ends up kind of like this training, bantering relationship with the guardian, who basically is like the guardian of everybody. He's like the main one who protects the prince, makes sure there's no danger that comes to them, and also the guardian makes sure that these monsters are not attacking the party while they're like traversing through this whole entire country. And then with the plot twist that ends the last book, we start off from there, but some of our characters are kind of separated from each other, so of course each of them have sort of their own POVs. There's also a new POV that is introduced into here, and it's starting off like that again, where it's like they're just journeying right now. And I just want to know what's going on. Like, there's these things called the Vosters, where they're sort of like the priests of this world. Odessa, when she gets too close to any of these Vosters, she feels their magic when nobody else feels their magic. She's the only one who does. She keeps asking questions to the Vosters, but obviously they're not answering her. They're being very secretive and cagey with their answers, not necessarily like answering the questions directly. They just keep telling her to like trust the process, basically, in their own words. And that's what she's doing, but it's kind of frustrating me as a reader because I would love to know more information about this whole entire thing that's happening and more about the plot, and I would love to have more answers to the questions that we have from the last book. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but the reason why I couldn't give the last one a higher rating than like maybe 4.5, which is still a good rating, is because there were points where in the writing, when we're in Odessa's POV, she is talking to herself with questions in her head. Yeah, it's questions after questions after questions. Instead of like naturally just saying it and incorporating it into the narrative, it's used as questioning instead. There's like so many questions that she asks over and over and over the whole time, and it gets tiring, especially being since we're only in her POV. There's like another way to write that in the narrative rather than like a question. It's just really kind of like irritating and repetitive. It's toned down a bit in the first 100 pages, which I am so grateful for, because I think a lot of people had problems with that too. And I'm so happy that it's a little bit better. It's not as heavy-handed with the questioning she has, so it's kind of like written a little bit better. And then we have the new POV, and we are trying to understand how this new POV ties into the actual like main story. I don't even know what time period this is set in. I don't know if it's like during Odessa's time period, before, after, who knows. It's just like we're getting more journey and more questions rather rather than like more plot moving forward, and I'm hoping it's just not journeying the whole entire time, that we actually get to the point of something. I've seen high praise of this online. It's more questions and journeying rather than getting to the crux of the plot, and it's a trilogy, so I'm hoping we get a lot of information in this because the next book is supposed to conclude everything. I'm just expecting a lot of more plot to move forward. So that's my initial thoughts right now in the first 100 pages. We shall see how I feel moving on. Hi friends, I do have an update on Rites of the Starling. I'm on page 249, chapter 32. About like halfway through. I think that's like a little over halfway through. It's taken a while to get to the point of the story. I thought that the beginning started off really slow, and so there's also points where a lot of our, I guess you could say, main characters are separated from each other, and so one character is doing a journey on their own and they are meeting new characters from around the world. I don't mind when new characters get introduced, it's just that I wish we didn't have to sacrifice the separation of our main characters in order for that to happen. I feel like we're playing hot potato with our characters, that once they are done with a certain part of the country, then they're being passed to a different person that's another new character for them to be taken to a new place in a new area to get like a new lore, I guess, are being added to it. Yet the new lore is not even anything new. It's the same thing from the first book where we're journeying and then fighting more monsters, journeying and fighting more monsters. We're not adding anything new to it. We're just getting new characters for the sake of getting new characters. So I'm trying to trust the process by having faith in the author that we're going to get to the point eventually. Tell me why it took over 200 pages to finally get to the revelation of like why these information are being reiterated again. And then with our new perspective, that's Caspia, like I'm still trying to understand what her point in this story is also. And I'm honestly bored, and I just don't like the fact that it took over 200 pages just to get to the point of the story. I honestly thought that a lot of the journeying that other main character had to do was not necessary to this story. Like, I still don't understand why they're traveling everywhere again. This is just a big build-up. I just don't think the build-up is necessary, but then again, I haven't gotten to the end of the book, so maybe this whole entire like journey was necessary. I just haven't gotten any new information from all the new different areas that we're at. That's just my take on it so far. I am getting to the point where I'm getting reinterested again in the main plot of the story, so we're finally getting somewhere. Oh, and there was a problem I had with like the new character that we have. So she speaks a different language. Apparently she speaks like an older language. She spent like a week with this main character that she found, and they are trying to get over the language barrier, and all of a sudden she's fluent. She's not even speaking like a broken version of the language that she's speaking with him. It's all of a sudden very fluent, grammatically correct. I think it's just like suspend the disbelief kind of thing, but I think that's really fast to be able to know a language within a week, especially to use that language to fall in love with another character at the same time. I'm just gonna come back when I probably either am finished with this book, or if there's like a big thing that happens. I'm just not feeling that urge to pick it up right now, and I'm just honestly bored, which I'm really sad about because this was an anticipated release of mine. It might just be suffering a second book syndrome, so we shall see how I get along with it. We'll see. It just depends on the ending, so I'll continue on. Right now I also started the second book that I anticipated reading, which was The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. I love Abby Jimenez. She is one of my auto-buy authors. This one is her newest release. This is a part of the Say You Remember Me series, where the first one was following Xavier and Samantha, and this one follows another friend of theirs, and this follows a character named Chris. Chris is a pharmacist, and so he has a best friend named Mike, and Mike is dating a character named Larissa, and Larissa is the other second POV of this story. Chris and Larissa and Mike all meet on one night where there's like a concert happening, and so she needs a ride home. Chris and Mike both offer her a ride, but Chris is kind of grumpy about it, and Mike is a lot more personable and very outgoing, so of course she's gonna go with Mike because she feels better getting a ride home from him over Chris. Maybe a few weeks later, after this like whole concert thing happens, Mike and Larissa start sort of dating. They're not really official, they just start going on a few dates, and so Mike ends up calling Chris to do him a favor because he is hungover, and he has to take Larissa and her mom to the hospital because Larissa's mom needs surgery, and so he begs Chris to go please take Larissa and her mom. Larissa is going through a lot of stuff because her dad is basically deadbeat. He uses her social security to put a bunch of credit cards under her name, and he maxes them out, and now it's up to her to pay it all back, and she does a bunch of jobs. So Larissa ends up going with Chris to take her mom to the hospital. She tells him that he doesn't have to stay because she feels bad that Mike had to wake him up, but he ends up staying anyways, and they end up bonding. I just feel like it's kind of surface level right now, and also the only interactions that like Larissa and Chris have had together is when they are taking care of this dog that they ended up like sort of adopting when they found this dog when her mom was getting surgery. And it just feels from Larissa's point of view that she doesn't really feel anything from Mike, so I don't understand why she's with him, and I just feel like he's being put there just to add conflict to it, and I just don't like it at this point. I'm hoping it's gonna be a good like ending where it doesn't affect the relationship between Mike and Chris too much, because they've been childhood best friends. What I'm seeing right now is like Larissa and Mike are not having a deep relationship. They've literally been only dating at this point 4 months, and she spent way more time with Chris. I'm not seeing necessarily the chemistry, I just think that they're more compatible with each other because they have the same interests, but I don't see the chemistry so far. I just feel like they're really clicking as friends instead of lovers. I just don't know if I'm gonna feel for it, and I'm just having okay time so far. So I will come back when I'm updated with like either more updates on Rites of the Starling and also The Night We Met. I tried to see if there was an audiobook for Rites of the Starling that I could listen to while I am doing other stuff, just because I wasn't feeling the need to pick it up right now, and I was gonna use my Spotify hours for it. It's not a part of Premium for some reason, and it says it's like $25 to buy it on Spotify Premium. I was so like annoyed by that, and I'm not going to waste a credit on Audible for this book because since I am just kind of bored with it, I just don't feel like it's like warranted a credit, and it just doesn't deserve that. I just don't want to use my Audible credit for it, but like I said, I'm going to focus on finishing this because I want to move on to finishing The Night We Met, and so I can move on to the other book that I have as well. But I'll come back with an update. So I did end up finishing Rites of the Starling. I have a lot of thoughts. I ended up having a few problems with this book. I just thought the number one thing that I had, probably the pacing issues and the repetitiveness of the story. I think there was probably the corporate equivalent of this could have been an email. Finally, at the last 100 pages, we finally started getting presented with answers to our questions that we've had since the beginning of the first book. I just thought that it was a great ending for what it was. I felt the same way about the first book, and we seemed to forget about our other characters that we met, and I wanted to know more about what was happening on their end of the story, and we were meeting new characters that were getting new backstories to, yet I was still confused on where the other characters were. I finally got to a point in the part of the story where I finally started getting invested and started caring about the characters, but it just took too long to get there, and I am so sad to know that like the pacing was so bad because I love the story. It's actually pretty unique for what it is. The execution is not unique. It's literally the same pattern as any other romantasy. With this, it just seems so meandering a lot of the times where we're not just getting to the point of the story. We kept circling and circling, and there was too much repetitiveness for my liking. And also, at the last book, we spent a lot of the time with the Guardian training Odessa so that she can learn how to fight for herself, so that she can become stronger, yet she didn't use any of her skills majority of the time. She didn't start using them till maybe the last part of the book. And to spend that much time using our character to be trained to not utilize any of those skills during the points where she's fighting against a monster, instead, you know, using other people to kind of rescue her. That's not what I like. It's just, I don't like damsel in distress kind of characters. She felt very one-dimensional for majority of the time, and the new POV that we got introduced to, she had a lot more personality than our female main character did. I ended up resulting to giving this a 3.75. I was like hesitating between a 3.5, 3.75. The ending of the story was like a 5-star ending. I loved the plot twist at the end, but at the same time I kind of knew that's what the plot twist was going to be. I had a feeling it was one of my big theories. The thing about it is it really a plot twist if it's an omittance of information? Because I had a feeling that we were missing part of the story, and I had a feeling that there's more to this than meets the eye, and one of the theories I had was like ended up being our twist at the end. So is it really a plot twist if it's an omittance of information from the reader? So I'm obviously going to finish this series. It's going to be a trilogy, and the last book that's coming out next year, I think we already know a release date. I think it's coming out March 9th, I believe. I can't wait to see how the story is going to conclude. I feel like we're going on a right direction, and I like where the story is headed to. I just felt like a lot of the pages should have been cut out because they were so repetitive. But yeah, that was just like my whole entire experience with this book. It's not a terrible book. I still love the story overall, and I have a feeling that I'm gonna love the third book more. This fell victim to the second book syndrome, so I'm very disappointed that like I didn't fully like it. And then I do have a bigger update on The Night We Met. I'm about 100 pages away from finishing this book. I'm actually on page 297, so this book is not that long. It's like 384, so less than 100 pages away actually. So the number one word that I keep thinking about when I'm reading this book: frustrated. I just feel like there was a better way to execute the concept we had in this book, like boyfriend's best friend, and Chris's case, best friend's girlfriend. Larissa has a lot going on in her life. She has to fix the stuff that her dad did against her. She has to do a bunch of side hustles in order to make a lot of money, and she also has like the relationship with Mike. But when we see interactions with her and Mike, I just feel like there's nothing there between them. There's not really any chemistry, and I don't even understand why they're still together. Mike has like a lot of problems. He had to deal with a lot of stuff happening in high school where he was supposed to be this star athlete where he was going to move on to do big things, yet he got an injury and had to deal with not being able to play the sport he wanted to anymore. I'm not feeling as much closeness or connection with these characters compared to Part of Your World series. I don't know. I just don't understand this whole entire dynamic. We are focused more on showing Mike as the bad guy and the negative person that doesn't deserve Larissa, to give them sort of like a leeway to be together, and I don't like that. I don't like that execution whatsoever. You shouldn't have to have assassination of like a character in order for the male main character and the female main character to be together. And we're getting to a point right now where the story has just blown up because Larissa is seeing more of Mike that she doesn't like. I just don't like the story. I just feel like it's not the whole entire concept or the conflict of the best friend's girlfriend that I don't like. It's the whole entire execution of it. I don't think that Mike should have had to take so much time away from our male main character or female main characters, like character development, in order to show that he's like not compatible with Larissa. It just feels like a different author wrote this. I had the same problem with Say You'll Remember Me also. There's like points where modern day references are interjected. Like in the first book, we talk a lot about TikTok and TikTok fame. In this one, both our female main character and our male main character are big readers, so they talk about books a lot. And in the beginning of the book, there's this whole entire conversation they have about how much Chris reads and how like there's no way he reads that much, and like that's a problem we have also on TikTok, where a lot of people try to accuse other people that they don't read that much. And I just don't like that whole entire thing being included into a contemporary romance. It's a contemporary romance, of course it's going to include a lot of stuff that are in our society today. I just don't like the heavy-handedness of it, and it just throws me out of the story. Everything's about to blow up. Well, in fact, everything just did blow up. I'm just ready to be done with this story, and I have never experienced this with any of like Abby Jimenez's books. So yeah, that's my feelings right now. Chris is probably the only one I'm like really like tolerating right now, but I feel like that's to be expected because that's how he's written, to be the best of the best and like the most flawless character, and also he yearns so badly for Larissa. It's just a mess. It's just a huge big mess, and I'm ready to finish it. Hi everyone. I think it's been about a week and a half since I updated this vlog. I got horrifically sick. The first 2 days I got so tired, and also I started getting a fever that was really bad for like 2 days, and then I started getting a really bad cough, and then congestion came out of nowhere, and I was so tired. I think it was the flu. I'm not too sure. I just know that I was out for the count, but I was still reading. But the last thing I wanted to do was update and be on camera because I look like trash. I am finally feeling better. It took so long to get better, literally chugging nothing but medicine and orange juice and water because I was so dehydrated. That means I did finish The Night We Met. I literally finished this right before I got sick, and so I ended up giving this a 3 stars. This has been my lowest rated Abby Jimenez book ever. Everything else has always been either a 4 or higher, and multiple of her books from the Part of Your World series were 5 stars. And also even the one from last year, Say You'll Remember Me, even that was really good compared to this one. I did not like my time with this whatsoever. I really did not like the concept of boyfriend's best friend. It's not that necessarily I was hesitant about the whole entire like trope of this. This one I was interested because of course it's Abby Jimenez. I love Abby Jimenez. This one was just not it. I didn't like the way it was executed. I hated how they didn't even try to give Mike a chance to be a better person for her, and then ultimately it just wasn't in the cards for them. It just like they were trying to excuse her and Chris getting closer in order for everything to turn out well with them and to make the whole entire situation seem better than it was, because Mike still lost at the end of the day, and also Mike was going through a lot of stuff. The last couple of chapters they tried to make everything better by saying basically screw the world and let's just love each other, and that just wasn't the right approach at all. And then I didn't like the way it was executed. And also Abby Jimenez books are normally really good about going over emotional devastation and PTSD and trauma that characters are going through, where they have to get over everything that they're going through first before they're healthy enough to be in a relationship together. And this just felt like a completely different author, and I just don't like how it's approached. And I know the next book in this sort of interconnected standalone series is going to be centered on Mike. I am interested in picking that one up because I do feel like he was done dirty in this book just to make it seem like Larissa and Chris were like good together, and I really hope that that one is done way better than how this was done. It's just, I don't like it. This is my least favorite Abby Jimenez book ever, and I just didn't like my time with it, and I don't fully recommend it whatsoever. She has so many other better books than this one, so I would not recommend it at all. And if you read Say You'll Remember Me and you also had an okay time with it and didn't even have a really good time with it compared to our other books, this one's not going to be any better. That's how I feel. And if you had a bad time with Say You'll Remember Me, you will not like The Night We Met, because this one was done worse. But you know, I always tell people that you should always pick up books anyways, even if someone doesn't recommend it to you, because you never know. And unfortunately I just didn't think this was a hit for me, and also that means I finished the Thorn Queen as well. I wish I recorded more of like my thoughts overall through this, but unfortunately like I said, I got really sick, so I did end up giving this book a 4 stars. If you don't know, Rose Bargain is a Regency era kind of like story where it bases on like fairies and fae, and it follows a character named Ivy who is going through her season, just like in the Bridgertons, where the girls take turns when they come to a certain age to go out into society, be presented in society so that they can be prepped basically for marriage and to court and be in relationships, and to also go to like all these different events to meet up with different people so that they can meet basically their future husband. So in this world there's a fairy queen who rules Regency England, and whenever a girl comes out in society they are allowed to do a bargain with the queen. They are allowed to ask for whatever they want. They usually will ask for something that will help them, you know, to make them more desirable in the marriage market, but in turn they have to have something taken away from them. And in this year the fairy queen actually says that her son is eligible to be a bachelor now, and so she basically hosts this whole entire bachelor thing with eligible bachelorettes where everyone comes and tries to vie for his attention and his like hand in marriage basically. But the deal is, if they sign up in this and they are not chosen by the prince, they are not allowed to get married ever, and they basically give up their whole entire chance at marriage in order to get this chance to be married to the prince. At the end of the first book there's like a huge cliffhanger that happens, and this story, it's like a combination of The Cruel Prince because of how cruel the fairies are in this book, and also Once Upon a Broken Heart because of the whimsy. And we end up visiting like another world where like more of the fairies stay. They call it the other world, and we get more of that world. And we basically try to fix the outcome of the last book, and Ivy and her sister have to deal with everything in this book. And in the last book, there were like different perspectives of like the girls who are a part of the Bachelorette like competition. We get different side stories of theirs and how they each get like a little background that we quickly learn in each of their chapters. And I absolutely love that, and I love that like the female friendships were more prominent in that book. Same thing with this. The female friendships were a lot more prominent in this one too, except it's not as many girls as the last one. I really like how Ivy grows in this. 3/4 of the way though, I kind of like was a little bit irritated with her constantly because she kept making these like sort of silly decisions, and I loved how sweet it was at the end. I loved the ending for our male main character and our female main character, and I had huge beef with our male main character because of the choices he was making and the reasonings he had behind it, and I just wish kind of that stuff was not happening. And also we explore also Ivy's relationship with her older sister Lydia and the kind of like resentment she had towards her. Her sister Lydia, like they were so close growing up, but after the whole entire event with her season and everything, she kind of pushed Ivy away as a sense to kind of like protect her, and we kind of got Lydia's perspective in here too. Everything did get really wrapped up really nicely, which I really liked, and I thought it was so sweet how it ended between the male main character and female main character, how it all wrapped up at the end, and I absolutely loved it. It wasn't as high of a rating from me as The Rose Bargain was. I absolutely like inhaled The Rose Bargain. I finished that in like less than a day or two, but this one it took me a few more days to finish. It definitely was a combination of me being sick, but I love this sequel nonetheless, and I loved how it ended, and I highly recommend this duology, and I can't wait to see more of Sasha Payton Smith's work. But that is it for the new releases vlog. I am sorry that I couldn't give more of an update at the end, but I just wanted to give like a good gist of everything that I read in this vlog. Let's just give a little recap of all the books I read in this vlog. Like I said, I read the Rites of the Starling. This was an average time for me. I was a little bit disappointed by it, but I can't wait to see how it concludes next. I just felt like it was just an extension of the first book, and I wish we kind of cut out maybe half of the first part of the book because I feel like it was just a bunch of meandering for the female main character. I did like the end. I like how everything like wrapped up in this book, and I can't wait to see how it ends at the last book. I'm glad it's just a trilogy. I'm hoping that the next one will just be like straight to the action and no more of this traveling meandering thing that we're going through, because this one could have been a higher one if we just like cut out that part. Yeah, this was the average time. Like I said, it wasn't a terrible book. It's just, it was disappointing. Next book is The Night We Met, another disappointing book. I don't know what's going on with new releases with me this year. I'm glad that I actually read this and got my own opinion. I still liked how certain things were wrapped up, but this one was just the worst of all the books I've read from her so far. And this is by far my favorite one out of all three. Definitely highly recommend this, especially if you love Regency fairy tales like I do, and I recommend, especially if you're looking for like a very short series. It's a duology. You could easily power through this. They're both each less than 400 pages, and you can easily finish this within like a week depending on how fast you read. But that is it for me. I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog, and I wish it didn't take this long to get it out to you guys, but I'm gonna edit it, you know, as fast as I possibly can to get it out. But I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, like and subscribe and leave a comment down below if you read any of these books and tell me your opinions about them. It really does help my channel a lot, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!